Olga. It's so good to be back here for a dose of truth with you. It seems that bar has really been helpful to people. So, I'm sure just like me, you are also thrilled about that. And so tell us, what is the topic we're going to talk about today, and welcome.
Likewise, thank you, Max, again so much for being with me here, and welcome everyone. Well, again, we're picking up a controversial topic, which also will be in sort of educational format, because being a survivor by yourself, Max, you know the information firsthand. So let's talk about human and child trafficking today. We know, I just remember, for example, myself, when I started to work years ago for now with SRA survivors and in the MK Ultra SRA field. So when I first heard about human and child trafficking, it also popped up a lot of questions in my head, because I was thinking, well, how is it possible? Because the slavery is over, unless at least that's official story is. So Max, could you please explain us what is human and child trafficking, and if it's happening till this very day? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Olga. Yes, it is still happening today. It has really never stopped happening. Whenever people discover something, then they hide it better, but they don't stop doing it, just like they never stopped MK Ultra and Monarch programming. It just went underground. So in the case of trafficking, of course, much of it occurs literally under the ground. But human trafficking and child trafficking is a very, very lucrative business, okay, for the authority figures that run this planet, the global cult, the elite, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call these people and their subgroups. This is one of the, along with war, this is the most profitable business that they have. They make so much money trafficking children and in many cases adults. So it comes from the top of the pyramid, but as always, they have subgroups that they use that work for them. So they will have gangs in certain countries, they will have intelligence operatives, they will have mafias. This trafficking is so well organized. So there's always someone on the ground in every area of the world that is responsible for getting the children, trafficking them. It's a network and an operation that is finely tuned. This is not haphazard. This is completely organized in every aspect of its network. So this is absolutely deliberate. And the trafficking of children is really, I mean, it's all heartbreaking. Okay, animals are trafficked, organs are trafficked. But the trafficking of children is, of course, for the cult purposes of having children to rape for their pedophilia habit. It is for having children to sacrifice in their rituals. It is for harvesting children's organs and their blood for adrenochrome. And really, I would say that the trafficking network is what undergirds the entire structure of this planet.
Thank you, Max. A short clarification for those who might have not heard about it before. You have mentioned adrenochrome. Can you please tell about what's that?
Yeah, so adrenochrome, as the name implies, is blood that is adrenalized. So the child is tortured, brutalized, terrified. When that happens, the brain and the nervous system secrete a lot of adrenaline, and then the child is sacrificed and bled out, and that blood is collected and it is sold. It is sometimes drank on the spot in rituals. Other times it is sold. There's actually documentation out there. If you go do your research, they have lists. They will have the name of the child, the race, the age, the quality of the blood. And this is sold on the black market as a commodity. It's definitely a big lucrative business in and of itself. So the adrenochrome it's actually a molecule that you can look up also that it's a way that the blood is filled with this adrenaline. And they drink this for different purposes, one of which is, and this has also come out a little bit in the media in terms of Hollywood. They're talking now about becoming more youthful and anti-aging products with blood and serum from children and youth in it. They're pretending it's something, they're not talking about how they get it, but this is actually out there and has been admitted.
Thank you, Max. I also would like to add that as far as from my research and what other survivors say, it looks like that for now, adrenochrome is the most or one of the most expensive drug on this planet. Well, expensive for us, probably for ordinary people, but elites, they are very wealthy, and for them, it's just probably unfortunately, just a drug as anything else. Thank you. So back for our human traffic and child trafficking topic. So you have mentioned that it's a lucrative business, that it brings a lot of money to the elite, and just for sum up a little bit, so it's lucrative because and brings a lot of money because these children of people who are being trafficked, they're being sold to pedophile circus, to elite pedophile circus for a big amount of money, for sacrifices, for organ harvesting, and for the rituals, right? That's why it brings so much money.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Well, also another part of human trafficking story and how it unfolds, and we also know that they always show us that sort of what they're doing. And can you please comment on that very famous lately movie, which was being and maybe still is in the many cinemas, big screens in the United States and probably around the world. It's definitely on the YouTube. It's definitely on many channels. The name of this movie is Sound of Freedom.
Yes. So people have believed and said, oh, they're sort of exposing child trafficking. This is good. And yes, anything that exposes child trafficking is good. However, this movie and the hero man in the movie, he himself traffics children. And the movie was done because, in my opinion, the awareness from the testimony of so many SRA survivors and child trafficking survivors, the topic was coming out into the public consciousness too much for the elite. So what they always do when this occurs is they put out their own version to stop it and turn it in the direction they want. And in the case of this movie, what it does is it paints that child trafficking is about migrant children, it's about gangs, it's about the stereotype that it happens in low income shady neighborhoods, that it's drug related. Now, this is true because, like I said earlier, they recruit these gangs to help with the trafficking and the kidnapping and all that. But this is orchestrated from the elites, and it is putting the children and the money in their pockets. And so that's the thing that the movie obfuscates. It turns your attention to thinking that this is a certain way and but what they don't mention is that, the presidents and the people in the global agencies and the heads of the religious institutions and anyone that has a lot of money and power and fame, and, now this is coming out in Hollywood, that these are the people who are, in fact, the consumers of trafficked children. So they leave that part conveniently out. So it's basically a way to control the narrative, okay? And a similar operation, which I think I've spoken about, is the Q operation. That's a PSYOP. So this occurred again because too many people were awakening to all the different things that are going on. And so they then take some figure, supposed mysterious figure named Q, to put out these truths that awake people already actually know. So it confirms this must be legit. This must be, oh, good, the information is coming out. But the twist in Q is trust the plan. In other words, if you're outraged about all these things, including child trafficking, sit back and do nothing because someone is going to ride in on a white horse and save the day. So it takes all this energy of all these people that are outraged, and one of their issues is child trafficking, so it relates here. It takes that energy and that outrage and it parks it. So this is the technique that they use when things are getting out. They seize it and they turn it and they neuter it.
Thank you. Another question also regarding to child trafficking and human trafficking in general, also which also popped in my head many years ago when I first started doing my research. So how is it possible? Okay, if we have this child and human trafficking and it goes really on a big scale, and every survivor I have met and worked with confirms exactly what you say, and even worse, so to speak. So the question is, how is it possible that we have so many children and adults trafficked, but we don't see them on the streets, we don't see them in the buses or in the metro, or in the place? So how it's being done?
One of the big ways is through the network of tunnels that exists everywhere in the world. And there will always be these tunnels under hospitals. So there will be children that are born, and if they're born from like low income mothers, the mother might be told the child died and the child is stolen, basically. It's trafficking under important military bases, under the Vatican, under places like that, where the very children of these elites are shuffled about and sold or given out to other people. There are things like there are deliberately done wars which cause migration and cause orphans. So then those orphans are taken supposedly for their protection by the state or government of whatever country. And then here in the US, Child Protective Services is a major trafficker of children. So it's no secret that they have lost hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of migrant children that have come to the United States. Now, they're not lost. They've been put into the trafficking system. It's done also from VIP people to other VIP people. You know, it can be in a car, it can be, and it can be disguised because the children are also, as they're trafficked and they're programmed, they can look nice, they can be dressed up. You wouldn't know. You could be on an airplane and sitting next to a guy with what seems to be his little daughter, and that could be a child that is being flown somewhere else for some ritual or some, experiment or something. So it's really everywhere in our faces. And there's many, many sources, including under the ground, they have facilities where they take women, young teenage girls, and they breed them. So they create babies to be used in sacrifice. Mostly these are for sacrifice and rituals. So there's also a lot of children that are not registered. You know, nowadays you're born, you get a birth certificate, you get a social security number. Not so for many, many, especially the ones that are kept underground. And in my case, what I saw in Rome was that gypsies were kidnapped because they were an undocumented group. So that can be the case as well. So if you have eyes to see, you might begin to see it, but a lot of it is unseen because the network, it's structured so well. They have their transport systems, they have their tunnels. This is not kind of haphazard. This is well-oiled machine for the trafficking of children.
Thank you so much. You briefly mentioned by your own experience in Vatican. It's absolutely optional, the next question, but do you have something to add about from your personal experience?
Yeah, so the way that I experienced being trafficked was in the higher echelons of society, which is again who the real pedophiles are. And it would be that I would be taken with other children in cages for these elite parties, for the hunting parties, for the black tie parties. And so we would be transported, and then the pedophiles choose, I want this one, I want that one, and then, returned. Other times I was taken to hotels, very nice, lavish hotels, and rented out from a hotel room for pay. And yet the clientele, this is all again orchestrated. The people are told there's this child of this age, picture of me and come and, for this amount of money. So those are the ways that I experienced it. Sometimes I was taken in through tunnels underground, sometimes not, sometimes in limousines. It kind of depended, but that was my experience. And again, a lot of people think of trafficking like some bad neighborhood, some drug dealer. And, this actually does also happen, okay? As above, so below. So I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but what's most hidden, what's not allowed to come out is the fact that anyone who has been or is a president, who has been or is a global agency head, who has been or is head of the Vatican or the Mormon Church or other VIPs, actors, actresses, CEOs of big corporations, philanthropists, the big players that names you see out there are the customers that I was sold to.
Thank you, Max. I appreciate your openness. Also, I would like to add that for clarification of our audience, that when you speak about underground facility and deep underground and military bases, which are also known as DAM, many people like me, for example, a few years ago, I was also thinking that, well, all these images of sort of dirty tunnels and basically no any comfortable spaces and toilets and so on. But no, we're speaking about highly organized structures with the clean facilities, with the huge facilities, with every type of transport which has been circulating all around the world underground, just below our feet. So we have to really change the image of those underground tunnels, which are definitely, of course, exist what we think that sort of dirty tunnels and so on. But in general, human and child trafficking of high and top profile, that happens in completely different environments, so to speak, because these children are being delivered to the top politicians, top stars, top everything basically. So it's not someone is dirty unless it's required by a pedophile, so to speak. So it's really huge network which is being organized, which has been constructed from many decades ago. It's nothing new. It's not being done just now because technology is that advanced that it was possible to construct and build basically underground world. And it's sort of way of living, because I also know what other survivors say, and from my friend survivors, from my research, that there are people who basically live there. They don't go to the surface. And the young girls you have mentioned, if people think that those girls and young women, which by cult are named by breeders, if it's someone think that it's too far stretch, we have a project which is named 50 Voices of Ritual Abuse, where you also give testimony among another 49 people who were trafficked exactly on those tunnels, underground facilities. So that can be easily validated by many other people, and they're definitely much more than 50. So thank you, Max, again. And well, regarding to all this situation and sort of educational information you have provided, because now we do know and understand how it works, at least on the surface. But again, the purpose of our episodes, not panic, not sensations, not cheap horror show. We provide information which are necessary for understanding our reality, nothing else. So Max, from your perspective, how do you think, what can we do? What shall we do? How can we react knowing all that?
Yeah, it is very complicated because these same globalists control at the top levels all the structures. And like you said, children are delivered constantly to the White House, to the royal palaces, to the Vatican people. I mean, this is unfortunately exactly true. They're delivered. And everything, for example, these same people will have trained pediatricians and put them out there as part of the cult. It's any activity that's child related, coaching, preschools. There's been scandals of abuse in preschools. It's set up this way, mental hospitals. So the cult people are infiltrated in every organization that would work with children. So it's a very, very difficult thing. I think the first and foremost is exactly what we're doing here, which is awareness, which is saying what is going on. Okay. Because when people are aware and their eyes are open and they understand, they themselves will begin to see things and be able to absorb more information and identify things that are going on. And so that at this point is the most important step. And then we have to, go out there and try to create safe alternatives. So, we have to bring down CPS. We cannot allow them to keep stealing children. The laws, the law in the United States, if a parent even objects to a child going to a different gender, that child will be taken, and once they're taken, I can almost guarantee you they will be trafficked. So parents have to have a lot of power. For example, they don't have to send their children to public schools, or to government facilities. Be careful when you're in hospitals. Just be aware that these are the very organizations that are dangerous. And so honestly, it's going to be a big amount of work for us because it's so embedded. Like I said, it undergirds the entire control system. And so, for me, I educated my own daughter to look out, at age appropriate levels to tell me if this or this, if anyone touches you where your bathing suit covers you, you tell me. To I taught my child not all adults are good, and you never get in a car with a stranger, even if he says, come here, I have candy or whatever. And I mean, these are like basic things, but educating the children to be more alert. I mean, that of course doesn't have any relevance in the kind of children that I was around because we were captive, we had no choice. So I think it's really exposing the global cult from the top down and not participating in their structures as much as we possibly can. And, simple things like don't vaccinate your children, don't give them medications, don't follow the nutritional guidelines that you're given. These kinds of common sense things. I'm afraid I don't have an answer like we can run out there and save all these children, because unfortunately, these things are still at this point very, very well controlled.
Thank you, Max. Yeah, absolutely agree with you. It's not about that we have to take guns and just go to those hospitals, because we have to also understand that all these, or at least almost all of these very big hospitals and childcare facilities, they do have underground tunnels right below them. So that's why we also don't see human trafficking or child trafficking, because we think that, oh, okay, but there must be exit somewhere. So we see, at least someone sees these children being on the street with dirty garments and so on, which is not the case, because those tunnels are right below the facilities, and that's how it's happening. Sometimes those tunnels, as our mutual friend Rachel Wong confirms, are just being built and constructed right under her own house. So that's also the case. So her father, who was running child trafficking circle as well. So basically, to sum up a little bit, for the moment, of course, there is no one size fits all cure, but what we can do, and what we probably have to do also, just basic good old school education for our children, for understanding that not adults are good, and so they're not following someone for candy or something else. That's what basically you have said. It's a huge topic, and it's of course based on all the evidence we have now. As you say, Max, always that if you have eyes to see, you will see. Everything can be searched on internet as well. But I think from our educational perspective on our episodes, you have covered it pretty much well, and you just gave basic understanding, which is necessary again for understanding our reality, that human trafficking was not over, it's not being conquered, it's flourishing, and it's bigger, I'm afraid, than has ever been before.
Yes, I agree 100%. And then on some level, we are all slaves in general on this planet currently.
Unless we take responsibility for our own life, we grow up and we do understand that we don't need daddy government, so to speak, who tells us what to do or what to think. And maturity and being grown up and responsible is the key.
Absolutely, 100, 1000%. We can say no to things that are abusive, whether the government says it or not. We can say no to authority over us that is illegitimate, because we are divine beings of God and we are under natural law. And so there's increasing levels of control, and we can always refuse to participate. Yes, there may be consequences, but that is what morality does. It sets you free.
Thank you so much, Max, and see you next time.
See you next time.